ladies and mental gents.
Hello? Ah, that's better. Had a little squirrel stuck in my throat. Greetings, ladies and mental gents, again, and welcome to the Tales from Outer Space, where I take space-related stories from around the internet and read it out loud for your entertainment. All the relevant links are down below, and don't forget to do the usual YouTube gumph. And, as always, I hope that you enjoy. I just want to give a quick thanks to the Tier 5 channel members and patrons. Bob the Dragon, Datamagnet, Sergeant Puma, Cat Crab Lobster, and Duck Machine. Thank you very much for the support. It is much appreciated. Story number 1. Department of Engineering Redundancy Department in Engineering. Written by GlitchKey. I stared at the screen, checking and double-checking the blueprint. It couldn't be right. There was just no way being that wasteful was reasonable. Hey, Jocelyn, can you double-check something for me? Jocelyn leaned back from the cubbyhole next to me, then came over and looked at my screen. What's up? I pointed at the blueprints I was examining. I feel like this is a trick question or something. I'm working on efficiency designs and all that, and he gives me this garbage heap as a question. Taking a moment to peer at the blueprint, Jocelyn shook her head. Not sure what you mean. There are a couple places where I see that you might be able to improve efficiency, but nothing is really wrong overall. Nothing, I sputtered. I could have removed half the systems from the ship, and it would work just fine. Turning to stare at me for a moment, Jocelyn just shook his head and sat back down in his cubbyhole. You could, if you wanted to get flunked and dropped from the engineering program. Flunked? How? I just shook my head and stared at the bit of the blueprints. Okay. I get that species that designed this ship is big on redundancies and redundancies for redundancies. But this is ridiculous. They have entirely pointless backup systems. Jocelyn just continued typing away in his cubbyhole. You slept through half of the class again, didn't you? I yawned. Yeah. So? The typing stopped. There are reasons you're required to take these cultural classes as an engineer. This is one of those. Sure it is. This still feels like a trick question. There's no way anyone can make use of manual control systems for projectile weapons. It's pointless. No, it's not pointless. You know about specialized evolution. You've already had to engineer your way around a living space for a tetrapodal species, the size of a classroom. Shrugging, I rotated to the ship view to check the weapon systems again. Doesn't matter. Everyone requires targeting systems to hit something with a projectile. Typing started up again in the cubbyhole next to me. Not humans. Trust me, they do it very well. Specialized neural pathways or something. There is even projectiles in a lot of their recreational activities. Sure. And I bet that they only sleep once a month, too. If there was a bit of an edge in my voice, I didn't care. A notification went off in the corner of my screen before Jocelyn spoke again. Do yourself a favor. I just sent you some holovid links for human sports. Go watch those before you manage to flunk yourself. End of story. Story number 2. Abomination, written by Rosie013. The small cloaked figure flitted from shadow to shadow, pursuing its goal with a single-minded determination, and then sat down in the bar's last remaining empty booth, glad to have crossed the crowded room without attracting attention. They were there to wet their lips in the lonely station between worlds, not cause a public disturbance. Despite their cowled and secretive nature, their short stature and narrow profile was a dead giveaway to their species identification. If anyone within 1,000,000 light-years was educated enough to know. Oddly enough, it seemed that the waitress who bounced on over to collect his order knew what he was, or was perhaps sensitive enough to this rough place to know the dangers well in advance. Her jovial attitude died as she questioned if the shadowy figure would like to place an order. The rasping, quiet voice that requested rocket fuel solvent and warm meat made her shiver involuntarily, as much due to the sounds itself as the request. he deposited several small denominations of coins in front of himself, rather than hand them to the server with an outthrust limb that could have been interpreted as a threatening movement. She noted the order and gathered the coins with her apron, being careful not to touch them directly. Chiron had to be reread the order twice before he comprehended what manner of being was occupying his bar. The order wasn't a problem objectively. He still had 2 bottles of fuel in the back corner of the cellar, but it had been a long while since anyone had ordered any of it. What manner of cosmic joke was it to create foul creatures that consumed the stuff? No matter, he was experienced enough in this business to overlook almost any oddity, so long as they were a paying customer and didn't cause trouble. The other half of the order was a little easier. Meat was regularly served here, but warmed. Disgusting. Thankfully, it hadn't asked for it to be bloody as well. He wouldn't have been able to fulfill that request. He was returning from below with one of the dusty bottles when he heard something of the station's more, notorious patrons enter his establishment. They weren't quiet about it. They gave others the chance to flee their approach. Was it time to play his protection fee again? So soon after the last time? Crab looked around the now cleared-out bar with a slight hint of satisfaction. Good times might be few and far between for his gang at the moment, but some free drinks would keep his crew loyal for a little while more anyway. As the fat old owner made himself known and started pouring for his unpaying customers, Crab noticed one of the local fools was still loitering in one of the booths. Idiot. Didn't it know that drinking session was a private affair? It would have to be taught a lesson about respecting its betters. Some of the others, paying attention to the leader's gaze, moved to back him up. As he got closer to the booth, Crab realized it was a species he didn't recognize. Perhaps fortune was smiting on him today after all. An exotic specimen would sell well to a slave trader. Best of all, the little cloth-wrapped alien didn't seem to realize the danger it was in. Surely it would have fled with the rest of the patrons if it knew. As his shadow fell over the stranger, it looked up at him from its seated position with 2 glossy orbs of surprising intensity. Crab nearly had to reach for the table to prevent himself from stumbling in shock. A pool of blue, the exact color of blood, tipped with a perfect circle of the purest abyssal black, surrounded on each side by an expanse of pale corpse flesh white. Surprised and angry about receiving what was clearly a threat display of some sort, Crab forgot the demands and went straight for the energy weapon in his pocket. A quick flick of the stun mode, and he shot the little alien right in its stupid hooded face. Nothing happened. Nothing happened. The little alien opened her orifice obscenely wide to display an impressive array of jagged stone growths emerging from its flesh, with thin strings of clear, high-viscosity substance dripping from them. With mounting horror, Crab realized what he was experiencing now was a threat display, and it was working rather well. Trying to not panic in front of the rest of the gang, he flicked the gun back to lethal and shot it again. The Abomination didn't react, didn't even flinch. A slight curling of the orifice indicated that it seemed to be enjoying the scorching heat of the thermal pistol. Without warning, a cluster of short tentacles shot out and grasped the weapon, effortlessly wrenching it from Crab's grip. He didn't need to be told twice. He turned and ran, his equally terrified crew hot on his heels. Chiron watched the last of the local scum flee from his bar in pure awe. He had never seen them run before, not even when that self-proclaimed bounty hunter had faced him down a few dozen cycles ago. He was just wondering how much he should offer the alien to stay as in protection when he met its intense gaze from across the room. On second thoughts, maybe not. He came over to the bar and deposited the weapon onto the bar. Chiron could see that the creature's very touch left strange oily secretions where it had handled the gun. He would have to have that entire booth removed and incinerated after it left. As if reading his thoughts, the little shrouded patron reached for the dusty bottle of fuel that it had already bought and paid for, tucked it into the folds of its clothing, and walked out of the bar. It was only then that Chiron realized that he hadn't heard it say anything during the confrontation, or make any noise at all for that matter. Fighting back an unpleasant feeling that he couldn't properly place, he started preparing for the first real cleaning the bar had seen in a long time. End of story. And that, my friends, concludes this video. I hope that you enjoyed, and if you do, please consider supporting the author, even by popping over and leaving a thumbs up or a nice comment, just to show your appreciation for the story. However, if you wish to support this channel, there are links down below which will help immensely. I will see you all in the next one, and until then, I hope that you have a fantastic day. Cheers.